All right, so I am at station 3 because I signed out and put my name tag at station 3, and I have my negative carrier. This is our enlarger. This is the lamp house. This is the vertical post. Inside, you don't ever need to open this, but here's our light bulb. The light travels through the condenser to come out our lens to be a nice even amount of light at the baseboard. You would adjust the bellows with these fine focus knobs on the side. Go ahead and put this back. Sometimes only one works. That's what's going to focus that light. I can also raise and lower the whole lamp house. On the left-hand side, there should be a knob that will loosen or tighten. And then on the right, there will be a crank sometimes. This one doesn't have one, so I'm just going to pull it down or raise it up. I'm going to make note of where the height is. So right now I'm at 19 inches, and I'm going to tighten that down. I can also adjust my aperture on the lens. So I have F numbers, just like I would on a camera. So I'm gonna go to F16, and you'll notice it goes past 16 just a little bit. So I wanna actually click on 16. And then for this one, I'm gonna start at 11, 8, F5.6. So you wanna get used to doing that in the dark. Go to the darkest, where it actually clicks. 1, 2, 3 stops, more light. All right, so at the station, I need one of the 2 easels that's present. This is the contact easel. This is the print or masking easel. I'm gonna use the contact easel first. This has a glass hinged lid. Sometimes that glass isn't attached, so just be mindful of it. I'm gonna size my light to cover completely my negative. I also have at my station a timer. And so on my timer, I have T for time and F for focus. F will just turn the light on. T for time will allow me to set a time, say 5 seconds, press the button, and it will count down for 5 seconds, and then the light will turn off. I want to make sure that I'm pressing this button all the way. Sometimes you could press it and it only goes halfway, and so then it doesn't count the full 5 seconds. So making sure that we're pressing that button completely. I'm gonna start by making a test strip, and I'm gonna use 3-second intervals. So I'm gonna set my timer right to 3 seconds. So I'm gonna put my negative carrier in the lamp house. And when I do that, on the left-hand side, I'm gonna raise that lamp house, and there are 2 little studs that look like nail heads. And I'm gonna fit the little grooves of my negative carrier, making sure that the larger part of the negative carrier is on the bottom. And I'm gonna fit those around. And so what I usually do is hold my fingers at those little notches so that I can feel that it's seated completely. And then close the lamp house. I can then turn on the light to focus my rectangle of light. So now I have my rectangle of light, but it's soft and it's not focused. So the first thing I'm gonna do is adjust my fine focus knob to raise or lower the bellows to get a nice sharp rectangle of light. And then I'm gonna bring my easel just into that light. That way when I place my negative at the top of the easel, I know when the light is off that it's completely illuminated by my enlarger. Now, if your rectangle of light is too small or much bigger, you may need to raise or lower the whole lamp house. This is really good. The reason we want to do this is that way every time I'm printing that I'm consistent with the height of my enlarger and that the bellows is at the right place. Because if I bring it way up high, yes, it's illuminated, but my bellows is now much higher, and that's going to affect my time. So having a nice sharp-edged rectangle of light with my lamp house at the same height every time for this negative, then I'm consistent. All right, so my light is good. I changed my aperture to f5.6. My timer is set to 3-second intervals.
Do you want
No, sorry.
do you want to show changing the aperture with the lights
Yes.
off? Okay.
Yes.
Just
So Sometimes it's easier to have it be at its brightest setting while I'm adjusting things, but then I want to make sure that I go to the darkest, back to where it clicks, that's F16, then I know one click is 11, one click is 8, and then another click is 5.6. I can also check if I need to, not with the flashlight, but with just the screen of my phone. Turn it on and just check that it says F5.6. And then turn that off and put it back in my pocket. So I'm all set. I'm gonna now turn the switch to time, which turns the light off. I'm gonna grab a piece of mat board and I'm gonna grab a test strip. So I'm gonna check the test strip bin for a decent sized piece of paper. And if there isn't one, I can grab a full sheet of paper and I'm gonna cut it into thirds and use a third of a piece of paper, making sure I'm closing my lids. All right, so now I have my test strip. I wanna make sure that the shiny side or the emulsion side is up. That's gonna go down. Then I'm gonna take my negative and flip it over face down. That way it's emulsion to emulsion, kind of like I'm making a photocopy. And what I do is I pull out my test strip just a little bit so I can see where it is as I'm making my test times. I also want to make sure that my test strip is over an area that has kind of a variety of values. I've got grass, I've got people, I've got sky. I wouldn't want to do a test strip just along one edge, or I wouldn't want to do a test strip this way where it's mostly getting the grass. So it's going across kind of all areas of my negative. Pull that down a little bit. And then making sure I'm not moving the easel, I'm gonna close the glass. And that's just keeping everything sandwiched together. So now I'm going to cover up everything but about maybe 3/4 of an inch. And then I'm gonna press, making sure my arm isn't in the shadow, like isn't covering the light. Press the button in all the way and count 3. Move it over about an inch to a half an inch. 6. Sometimes I lift it up and check. 9. And then move it away for 12. And this was 3, then 6, 9, and 12, because that last little bit only got 3 seconds. So it actually counts kind of in reverse. I'm gonna lift up the glass carefully, making sure I'm not moving things. Lift up my negative, take out my test strip, and walk over to develop it. So I'm checking my time, looking at the timer, and this is gonna be 1.5 minutes. And I'm making sure I can rock the tray gently back and forth. I can pick it up, flip it face down, and move it around with my tongs. I want to make sure that I'm not scratching the print with my tongs. I can grab kind of the corner and move it around. I want to keep track on my note card of a few things. I'm going to write my name and what I'm printing. So this is my Pinhole class photo and what station I'm at. So I'm at station 3. And then I want to write down my aperture setting. So I'm at f5.6 and I'm at 19 inches tall. That's the height of my enlarger. And then my test time. So I was 3, 6, 9, and 12. And then once I see my test strip, I can just circle the time that I want to make my final print at. As a reminder, in the center station, it shows you how to keep track of your note cards. There are always note cards here, along with some extra pencils. So name, when we're printing, what roll and what frame number, or just a description of the photo, what station, and then aperture, some other information that we'll do later on. And then here's another example of one that's filled out. All right. So after I'm done in the fixer, I can go ahead and take it outside. I don't need to get it in the water immediately, so I'm gonna let that drip. I'm gonna grab an empty tray from the counter. I'm gonna set that test strip in that tray so I'm not dripping on the floor. And then I wanna take with me my note card and my negative and compare. And so what I'm looking for is I wanna, look at this is 3, 6, 9, and 12. And sometimes you have to compromise. I might really like the look of this at 12, but then something else might be too dark. And I want to compare against my negative. So this is here. Does the grass get too dark? But the person is what's the most important. I can see part of the school showing up where here I lose that. I want white values, which I've got. I want black values. And these two figures blend in. I can tell on my negative, there's a little bit of difference there. The hand, I'm looking kind of at the hand blending in. I can make out those fingers, but then the leg kind of blends in with the grass. Here, I can make out those fingers. And so I do feel like that time is the best. So 3, 6, 9, 12. So I think I'm gonna go with 12 seconds as my time. Now, if I felt like that still wasn't enough, I don't wanna just guess and go to 15. That never saves us time. So if I'm not sure and I need more times, I wanna go back, make a new test strip. This time I might start with 12 for everything and then add 3 on top of it. So then it would be 12, 15, 18, 21. So always take the time to make a test strip that will tell you what time you want. Don't guess. It rarely ever saves us any time. All right. If you've set up your phone to be for the accessibility shortcut, I can even then preview what does that look like as a positive and compare it to my negative, or to my test strip rather. So yeah, I do feel like, there might be a little bit, and I could also compromise. I could say, all right, that's 9 and that's 12. Maybe I'm gonna do 11 seconds or 10 seconds. Sometimes those 1 seconds don't make that much of a difference, but I could if I want to, but I think I'm gonna stick with 12. So I'm gonna come over here, pick up my test strip with my tongs, put it in my water. I'm gonna kind of dip that tray in the water, rinse it out, and pour it back in, just to rinse out that tray. Put it back upside down on the counter to dry. I'm gonna also make sure that my hands are dry so that I'm not getting any chemicals or water on my photo paper or on my positive. All right, so at my station, what I like to do is before I get out a piece of paper, I'm just gonna check that my easel hasn't moved, that everything is where it needs to be. It looks good. So I'm gonna, while I have the light on, I'm gonna go ahead and on my note card, I'm gonna circle my time so I know what I'm printing at. Turn that off. I'm gonna get a new sheet of photo paper. Close the lid, making sure that it is, again, shiny side up. Like that. And if your negative is smaller, cut your paper smaller. You don't need a full sheet unless your negative is a full sheet. So those are lined up. Closing my lid, making sure I don't move the easel. Making sure that's flat. And then I'm going to just press this multiple times. And that's just in case, say I was actually at like 2 3/4 of a second. I want to make sure that pressing it 4 times will give me the exact setting from my test strip. So I don't want to just turn it to 12. I'm just going to press this once for 3, 6, 9, and 12. Making sure that I'm pressing that button in all the way. I count out loud so I don't make a mistake. Carefully lift up the easel, pull out my negative, pull out my print, and take it over to develop it. Dip that in, check my time. So when I'm done, I'm gonna make sure that I take my negative carrier out, close my lamp house, got my negative carrier, I've got my note card, and I've got my negative in one hand, and then I have any wet test strips or prints in the other hand. Wet hand, dry hand. That way I'm not getting things wet that shouldn't be, and I'm gonna go hang up my negative carrier.